Hello viewers. Thanks for stopping by again. In this video, we will introduce you to another project planning tool. The tool covered in this video is Mendelow's Stakeholder Matrix. This tool is used to plan stakeholder management when planning a project. This video will provide you with an overview of this tool and briefly demonstrate how this tool is used in the project planning process. So, who are project stakeholders? These are individuals, groups, or entities that have interest, can affect, and/or are affected by the project outcome. Considering this definition of who stakeholders are, we could end up with an inexhaustible list of potential stakeholder to a project. For this reason, project stakeholders are classified or categorized depending on their interest, perception of the project, and their contribution to the project. An example of how project stakeholders are classified include internal and external stakeholders. Where internal stakeholders include clients, sponsors, the project team, and the project managers and so on. External stakeholders include end users, suppliers, and competitors and so on. Project stakeholders are also classified into direct and indirect stakeholders. Where direct stakeholders are involved in ongoing management and execution of the project, indirect stakeholders are those merely interested in the project outcome. There are also positive and negative stakeholders. Where the positive stakeholders benefits from the success of the project, negative stakeholders are those adversely impacted by the project and its completion. Using either of these categories, it is imperative to first categorize the project stakeholders when planning your project. This will inform your decision on how you intend to manage each stakeholder group, especially when applying Mendelow's Stakeholder Matrix. After you have identified and categorized the different project stakeholders, it is now time to apply Mendelow's Matrix so as to plan how you might manage your stakeholders. Mendelow Matrix or grid is used to illustrate the impact of each stakeholder group on the project by identifying the power or influence on the project, and the interest of the stakeholders. This allows the project manager to plan the strategy and the amount of resources to be used to manage each stakeholder group. The higher the power of the stakeholder, the more capable they are to disrupt the project's success, and the otherwise happens the lesser their power and influence is on the project. As for their interest in the project, what you are looking for here is the level of the stakeholders' interest in the success or failure of the project. It is imperative to pay attention to each cell within the matrix when categorizing the project stakeholders into each cells. This enables us to understand how to manage each stakeholder groups in line with Mendelow's recommendations. So what are Mendelow's recommendations for each stakeholder groups? Mendelow argues that stakeholders who have high power and influence on the project with low interest are to be kept satisfied. It is imperative to meet the needs of these stakeholders as they exact an immense amount of influence on the project. As for stakeholder with low power or influence and low interest, these require minimum effort to keep them satisfied. Without being derogatory, these groups of stakeholders are considered to be the least important. Nonetheless, it is good that these stakeholders are monitored. Stakeholders with high power and high interest in the project are to be managed very closely. These are regarded as the key players in the project. Finally, there are stakeholders who should be shown consideration. These are stakeholders with low power or influence and high interest in the project. This group of stakeholders you want to keep informed. This is how you use Mendelow's Matrix to categorize and manage project stakeholder groups. To further enhance your understanding how this tool is being used when planning a project, let's consider an example. Take a controversial project of building a wind turbine as a case project. The first things to consider are who the stakeholders for this project are. And what is their power or influence and interests in the project? Let's list a few of these. The government is one stakeholder. We know they have the power to authorize the project plan and they will also be interested in how we could impact the environment with our wind turbine. So, we could conclude that the government's interest is high and so is their power. Hence, we want to manage the government closely. Perhaps, having regular meetings with government approval bodies or officials will help in this case. Another group of stakeholders you may want to consider are environmental activists who campaign against the building of wind turbines. These groups have little power on the project but their interest in the project is low, being negative stakeholders. These group you want to monitor closely with minimal effort. For example, responding to negative publicity about the project. The local residents, especially those who will be living close to the turbines, are also another group of stakeholders. These have low power on the project but their interest is high. These group you keep informed by creating awareness of the benefits of the project, for example, how it will reduce their electricity bills and the production of sustainable energy. One of the stakeholders that is more likely to be ignored is the project team itself. These are direct stakeholders and they mainly determine the success of the project. For this reason, these are considered to have high power and high interest. Considering this, the team must be engaged closely as they are key players in the project. This responsibility of managing the project team closely rests on the shoulders of the project manager. Another stakeholder group that could be considered are the project donors or investors. If they are donors, these should be considered to have high power in the project by virtue of their donations but are merely interested in the breakdown of the costs so as to make concise donations. These you want to keep satisfied. But, if they are investors, depending on what type, these could also be considered as having high power by virtue of their investment. These will also have high interest as they will be interested in the rate of return on their investment. This is a quick example of how you use Mendelow's stakeholder matrix or grid. Why not have a go at using this stakeholder matrix? Think of a project. Consider who the project stakeholders are and use the matrix to explain how you should manage the different groups of stakeholders, while determining their power or influence and interests in the project. I hope you have found this video useful. That will be all for this video. If you want more of these videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please, look forward to our other videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.